as a jackrabbit weighing 8 or 9 pounds. The reason she can do that is she can exert about 500 pounds per square inch of pressure with those talons, allowing her to capture and to hold onto her prey. Once she's killed her prey, she will then use that hook and curved beak as her knife and fork. That beak is supposed to act as her knife and fork and allows her to rip and tear. By the way, we've nicknamed her Barber. She tends to split a few hairs. If you see her coming directly at you, it's okay to duck, even though it's a hawk. Birds of prey have excellent eyesight, about 4 times better than our own eyesight. And when a hawk is soaring above the trees, it said that hawk could see a rabbit a mile away. The birds of prey are one of the few predators that can see in color. Most predators see in shades of black and white and gray. She sees in a wider array of colors than we do. And new findings suggest many of our birds see in ultraviolet light as well. Now, in the wild, Harris's hawks are known to be a very intelligent bird of prey. We know this because this is one of the few birds that are social in nature. What I mean by that, be prepared to duck. Right here, duck. Come on, Laredo, back over here. Come on, back up. Back up. Good job. Now, the Harris's hawk is known to be a very intelligent bird of prey from the southwestern desert. We know that this bird is very intelligent because it's one of the few birds of prey that are social in nature. What I mean by that is in the wild, they'll live in family groups or in colonies. You might have 3 or 4 pairs of Harris hawks all sharing in the duties of raising each other's young. They'll even hunt together. And they've been
no ill at all, till Finnegan told Flanagan, you've got an awful goal. I thought that might start a row, and sure enough it did. But Flanagan had carved his name upon the coffin lid. Oh, that's how they showed their respect for Paddy Murphy. That's how they showed their honor and their pride. They said it was a sin and shame to look at one another. Every drink in the house was full the night Pat Murphy died. Then the fight was on, everyone was in. Someone knocked the whiskers off poor old Darby Flynn. Dirty Andy Berg was there, and what do you think he'd done? He stood the corpse right on its head, just to see the fun.
The first story of the day, it's an Italian story. Any of you folks Italian? Well, then I'll tell the story in English. It's a story of a somewhat religious nature. Really only one I tell like that. It's a good story for a Sunday morning. But I don't mind telling it on a Saturday afternoon. But before I do, I'll make the announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, it's story time! And the very first story of the day is starting right now! As I was saying, it's an Italian story. The story takes place in Italy in a little city called Sorrento, and it seems that many years ago in Sorrento there lived a small boy named Giovanni who had no mother and no father. Well, he dressed in rags, and he begged for his bread, and he slept in doorways, but he was happy, and he could do something wonderful, for you see, Giovanni could juggle. And every morning he would go to the fruit and vegetable stall of Signor Baptista, and he would juggle. Well, he would juggle lemons and oranges and apples and eggplants and even zucchinis. Well, all the large crowd would always gather on to watch, and after Giovanni had finished, why, they'd all buy their fruits and their vegetables from Signor Baptista, and then Signor Baptista's wife would always give Giovanni a bowl of hot soup. And so you see, it was a very good arrangement. But then one day, a troupe of traveling players and entertainers came to town, and as Giovanni watched up there on the stage, Arlecchino and Colombina and the other entertainers in their beautiful clothes sang and danced. Said Giovanni, that is the life for me. And so, after the play was over, Giovanni went and he spoke to the maestro of the theater company. No, said the maestro. We have no need of a ragamuffin. Now go and bake your bread someplace else. Oh, but I could be very helpful, said Giovanni. I could help you pack and you unpack things, and, well, I could take care of your donkey, and, oh, and maestro, added Giovanni, I can juggle. Well, Giovanni showed the maestro how well he could juggle, and after some time, the maestro said, not bad. With a bit more training and practice. Well, all right. You may come along with us, but no money. A place to sleep. The companionship of the finest players in all of Italy, and a bowl of noodles. That's all. Oh, grazie, signor, said Giovanni. Now go and pack your things. We leave in half an hour, said the maestro, and so Giovanni said goodbye to Signor and Signora Baptista, and he went off to be a traveling player. Well, it was not long before the maestro gave him a costume, and Giovanni would juggle for the crowds. He would put on a white clown's face, and he would step out from behind the curtain before the play was beginning. He would open up a colorful cloth bag, and he would roll out a little piece of carpet. He would bow down in front of the crowds, and then he would begin to juggle. First, he would juggle sticks. And next, he would juggle plates. Then he would balance the plates on top of the sticks and spin them around. Well, he would juggle clubs, and he would juggle rings, and he would juggle burning torches, but finally he would toss up a red ball and an orange ball. Next, a yellow ball, and then for a green, and a blue, and a violet ball, until it looked as if he were juggling the entire rainbow. And now for the sun in the heavens, he would shout. And still juggling all the colored balls, Giovanni would reach down and he would toss up a shining golden ball. And it would fly in the air higher and higher and faster and faster. And how the crowds would cheer. Well, Giovanni became very famous. And it was not long before he said goodbye to the troupe of traveling players, and he set off on his own. Well, he traveled up and down Italy, and although his costume always became more and more beautiful, he always kept the white face of a clown. Now once he juggled for a duke, and once for a prince. But it was always the same. First he would juggle the sticks, and then the plates, and then the clubs and the rings and the burning torches, and finally the rainbow of colored balls. And now for the sun in the heavens, he would shout, and the shining golden ball would fly up and around, higher and higher and faster, and the crowds would laugh and clap and cheer. And wherever Giovanni went, the skies would be filled with his flying sticks and plates, with his clubs and his rings and his burning torches, and always the rainbow of colored balls and the sun in the heavens. And wherever Giovanni went, the faces of the crowds would be all smiles, and the sounds of laughter and cheers would ring out through the towns. But the years went by, and Giovanni grew old. Well, times became hard. People no longer stopped to watch. Oh, it's only the old clown who juggles things, they'd say. We've all seen him before. Well, this, of course, made Giovanni very sad, but still he juggled until one day when he dropped the sun in the heavens, and the rainbow-colored balls came crashing down around him, and the crowd stood around him and laughed, but not for joy. And then they did a terrible thing. They threw vegetables and stones at old Giovanni so that he had to run for his life. Well, stopping by a small stream, Giovanni washed off his white clown's face. And he put away his sticks and his plates. He put away his clubs and his rings and all of his colored balls. He took off his costume, he folded that up, he put that away too. And then he gave up juggling forever. Well, what little money he had was soon gone, and his clothes became rags. He begged for his bread, and he slept in doorways just as he had done as a child. It's time to go home, the old man said wearily, and he headed back toward the city of Sorrento. Well, it was a cold winter night when he finally arrived there. The wind blew hard, and an icy rain was falling down. Up ahead of him, Giovanni could see the monastery church of the friars, and although the windows were in darkness, Giovanni was cold and wet, so he crept inside anyway, and he fell in a heap in a corner, and soon he was asleep. Well, it was the music that finally woke him. The church was blazing with candlelight and filled with people singing Gloria, Gloria. Giovanni could scarcely believe his eyes. So much beauty, a long procession of priests and friars and sisters and townspeople, all of them carrying beautiful gifts, was winding its way through the church, and they all placed their gifts upon an altar which stood in front of a large statue of a lady who held a small child in her lap. "What is all of this?" asked Giovanni of someone who was standing nearby. "Why, old man," said a woman, "it's the procession of the gifts. Today is the birthday of the Holy Child." Well, Giovanni watched in amazement until all of the music was over, and then the church emptied of people and was darkened, except for the bright rings of candles which surrounded the statue of the lady and her child. Giovanni moved closer, and as he did, he saw that the child in the lady's lap looked very serious and very stern. Well, the child looked very, very sad. "Oh, ladies," said Giovanni, I wish that I had something to offer too. Your child looks so sad, even with all of his beautiful gifts. But wait. I used to make people smile. Well, Giovanni opened up his bag and he shook out his old costume and he put it on. And he put on a white clown's face. he rolled out his little piece of carpet. He bowed down in front of the statue of the lady and her child, and then he began once more to juggle. First, he juggled the sticks. And next, he juggled the plates. Then he balanced the plates on top of the sticks, and he spun them around. Well, he juggled the clubs and he juggled the rings, but just then the sexton friar, the friar who was in charge of keeping the church clean, was coming in to lock the doors of the church, and he saw Giovanni juggling, and he was horrified. For after all, juggling is not the sort of thing that one normally does in a church. He ran off to find the priest, crying, "Father, Master, come quickly! A blasphemy, a sacrilege! There's someone juggling in the church!" But Giovanni didn't hear him. Oh, Giovanni didn't even notice him. He was smiling at the face of the child as he said, "And now, for a red ball and an orange ball. Next, a yellow ball. And now for a green and a blue and a violet ball." Up and around they went, until it looked as if he were juggling the entire rainbow. "And finally," he cried, "for the sun in the heavens!" And still juggling all 6 colored balls, Giovanni reached down and he tossed up the shining golden ball. And it flew in the air higher and higher and faster and faster. Oh, Giovanni had never juggled so well in his entire life. Up and around, higher and faster, until a blaze of color filled the air. It was magnificent. Giovanni's old heart was pounding. "For you, sweet child, for you," he cried, and then suddenly his old heart stopped. And Giovanni fell dead to the floor. Well, the sexton friar and the priest came rushing in, and the priest knelt down over Giovanni and he said, "Why, this old clown is dead. May his soul rest in peace." But the sexton friar stood with his mouth wide open, staring in amazement at the statue of the lady and her child, for the child in the lady's lap, instead of frowning, was now smiling, and in his hands he held the golden ball. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the story of the Clown of God. Did any of you like that story?
Yes.
A couple of you liked it.
Yes.
Thank you all so very much.